If entitlement had 4 wheels and 0 shame, it would look exactly like the red SUV parked across my driveway. Again. My neighbor says it's temporary. I say it's an invasion. So I responded the only way a sane, slightly petty adult would, with landscaping. Very strategic landscaping. Let's just say there's now water involved. And maybe a drawbridge. Did I go too far, or just far enough? You decide. Watch till the end and let me know in the comments. What would you have done if someone kept treating your driveway like public parking? Be honest. We're all a little Moat curious here. But this time, she picked the wrong peasant to mess with. What started as a parking dispute turned into a full-blown suburban war, complete with bylaws, sabotage, and something that may or may not involve aquatic engineering. Spoiler, it gets weird. Drop a comment if you've ever had a neighbor like this, or if you've secretly dreamed of digging a moat. Let's just say, boundaries were re-established. Let me paint you a picture. It's a Tuesday morning in March, and I'm backing out of my garage to head to work at the community college, where I teach 3D printing and basic mechanics. Simple life, right? Wrong. There's Lila's cherry red Escalade sitting pretty in my driveway like she owns the place. Not parked crooked by accident, mind you. Perfectly centered, blocking my garage door completely. I sit there in my Honda Civic, engine running, staring at this automotive monument to audacity. I walk up to her front door. She lives directly across the street in what I call the McMansion of entitlement, and ring the bell. Lila opens it wearing yoga pants that probably cost more than my monthly car payment and a smile that could freeze hell over. She glances over with the kind of casual indifference you'd show a fly buzzing around your picnic. It's just for my book club delivery. Amazon's coming with some heavy boxes. I'll move it in like an hour. Chill. Book club. Right, because nothing says literary discussion like commandeering someone else's property. An hour? I check my watch. I need to leave now. Lila's smile gets tighter, and there it is, the flash of steel behind those perfectly veneered teeth. Look, Cal, I'm the HOA president. This whole street is technically under my oversight. One morning won't kill you. She starts to close the door, then pauses. Besides, it's not like you have anywhere important to be. And boom, there's the Lila I was warned about when I moved here 6 months ago. That evening, I'm poring over the HOA documents like I'm studying for the bar exam. 23 pages of small print, but nowhere, and I mean nowhere, does it say the president can use private driveways as her personal parking lot. In fact, Section 12 clearly states that blocking access to private property is prohibited. I highlight that sucker in bright yellow. Over the next week, my driveway became Lila's private valet zone, book club deliveries, HOA brunches, beautification committee potlucks. Each time, she smiled like she was doing me a favor. Each time, I took another photo. Rules are guidelines. I prefer to think of them as suggestions. She's holding a crystal wine glass at 10 in the morning and her guests are giggling behind her. Tell you what, she continues, why don't you park on the street for a few days? It's good exercise walking from the curb. That's when I snap my first photo, just a casual shot of her SUV in my driveway with my garage clearly blocked. Lila notices and her smile turns predatory. Taking pictures, Cal? How? Quaint. She leans against her doorframe like she's posing for a magazine. You know, in some neighborhoods that might be considered harassment. The threat hangs in the air like smoke. I pocket my phone and walk back to my house, but I'm muttering under my breath, my driveway's not your empire, Lila. Later that week, it gets worse. Way worse. Lila's hosting what she calls a neighborhood enhancement barbecue. Basically an excuse to show off her new outdoor kitchen that probably costs more than my annual salary. But here's the kicker. She's told her guests to park wherever they want. My driveway becomes a satellite parking lot. 6 cars. 6. I can't even see my garage door behind the automotive blockade. When I walk over to address this madness, Lila's holding court by her pool, wearing a sundress that screams I'm important, and gesturing dramatically with a martini. Lila, this is ridiculous. I can't even access my own garage. She looks at me like I just asked her to solve quantum physics. Oh, come on, Cal. It's one afternoon. Live a little. Besides, she raises her voice so half the neighborhood can hear, it's not like you're going anywhere exciting in that little Honda. Cue the laughter from her audience. He'll live, she announces, turning her back to me dismissively. That's when I see it clearly. This isn't about parking. This is about power. About showing everyone on Maple Street who really runs this neighborhood. I walk back to my house, but instead of feeling defeated, something cold and calculating settles in my chest. I grab my sketch pad, the same one I use for designing 3D printed prototypes for my students, and start drawing. Not lesson plans this time. Something much more interesting. As I sketch, I whisper to myself, I'm digging your downfall, Leela. Literally. The next morning, I'm at the college early, cornering my colleague June McCarthy before first period. June, I say, showing her the photos on my phone. Hypothetically speaking, what would you do if someone kept parking in your driveway? June, who grew up dodging HOA drama in 3 different states, grins like a shark who just spotted a wounded seal. Cal, my friend, I'd build them a watery trap they'd never forget. Monday morning arrives with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. I'm up at dawn, installing my masterpiece, a pristine, no parking, private driveway sign, complete with city ordinance numbers and penalties clearly listed. This isn't some flimsy piece of cardboard from the hardware store. This is marine-grade aluminum with reflective lettering that could be seen from space. I've done my homework, called the city, confirmed every legal detail. This sign has more official backing than some small-town mayors. I text Lila a photo of the sign with a message that's diplomatic but firm. Hey Lila, installed a parking sign to help avoid confusion. City Ordinance 347BC supports private driveway protection. Hope this helps clarify things for everyone. Have a great day. I copy the entire HOA board on the message because transparency is beautiful. Within an hour, my phone buzzes with Lila's response. Your sign's an eyesore, Cal. We'll discuss this at the next HOA meeting. No mention of actually respecting the sign, you'll notice, just concern about aesthetics. I watched hopefully as the first few cars parked on the street. But then, like clockwork, the Escalade rolled into my driveway, bumper nearly kissing the new sign. Message received. Lila parks directly in front of the sign, not beside it, not near it, but positioned so her bumper nearly touches the post. It's intentional, calculated, and absolutely infuriating. She climbs out wearing what I can only describe as a power outfit, blazer sharp enough to cut glass and heels that click against my concrete like tiny hammers of entitlement. She doesn't even glance at the sign, just grabs a covered dish from her passenger seat and struts toward her house like she's walking a runway. The potluck guests start arriving, and it becomes a parade of vehicles, treating my driveway like valet parking. By the time the sun sets, there are 4 cars on my property, and they've managed to trample the small garden border I'd been nurturing all spring. My hostas look like they've been through a blender. When I walk outside to survey the damage, I find tire tracks in my grass and a cigarette butt someone flicked onto my walkway. The disrespect is breathtaking. I grab my orange traffic cones, the kind construction crews use, and create a perimeter around my driveway. 8 cones total, positioned strategically to make it crystal clear where public street ends and private property begins. It's like creating a neon orange fortress of property rights. As I place the last cone, I notice Malcolm Hargrove, my next-door neighbor, watching from his porch. Malcolm's a retired mechanic with hands like leather and a smile that suggests he's seen this movie before and knows how it ends. Building yourself a traffic cone army, Cal? Malcolm calls over, his voice carrying that gruff humor that comes from decades of dealing with difficult customers. Something like that, I reply, standing back to admire my handiwork. Trying to establish some boundaries? Malcolm nods approvingly. Boundaries are good. Folks forget where the line is sometimes. Need help remembering it. There's something in his tone that suggests he's not just offering moral support. Wednesday morning brings the inevitable escalation. I wake up to find my traffic cones scattered across the street like orange confetti. Some are in the storm drain, others are stacked in a mocking pyramid on Lila's lawn. The message is clear. Your boundaries mean nothing here. But there's something else waiting for me. A crisp white envelope taped to my front door, with violation, notice, printed in red letters that look suspiciously like they came from Lila's home printer. The notice is a masterpiece of bureaucratic intimidation. The Maple Street Homeowners Association has received complaints regarding unsightly traffic control devices on your property. These items detract from our community's aesthetic standards and must be removed within 72 hours. Failure to comply may result in fines and further action. Sincerely, Lila Sloan, HOA President. I read it twice, my coffee getting cold in my hand, fury building in my chest like steam in a pressure cooker. That afternoon, I'm venting to June during our lunch break in the faculty room. She's crossed the line, June. This isn't about parking anymore. This is warfare. June looks up from her sandwich and I can see the wheels turning in her brain. Cal, my friend, you need to think bigger, way bigger. She pulls out her phone and shows me something that makes my heart race. A forum thread titled Best HOA Revenge Stories, with hundreds of comments. The stories range from petty to brilliant, but one comment stops me cold. Guy in Colorado built a decorative moat around his driveway, completely legal as a water feature. HOA president couldn't park there anymore. A moat, an actual moat. The idea hits me like lightning, and suddenly I'm sketching again, this time with the fever of true inspiration. June, I say, my voice barely above a whisper, what if I told you I was thinking about adding a water feature to my property? Her grin could power a small city. I'd say water features are lovely additions to any home. Very protective? As I walk back to my classroom, my mind is racing with possibilities. That evening, I'm on my laptop researching everything from decorative ponds to drawbridge mechanisms. By Thursday, I'm ready to make the call that will change everything. Malcolm answers on the second ring. Malcolm, it's Cal. Hypothetically speaking, how hard would it be to dig an 18-inch deep trench across the entrance to my driveway? There's a pause. Then Malcolm's laugh rumbles through the phone like distant thunder. Hypothetically, about a weekend's worth of work with the right equipment. Why, you thinking about some landscaping? I can hear the anticipation in his voice, something like that. You free this Saturday? Malcolm's response is immediate. Son, I've been waiting for this conversation since you moved in. Let's dig. Saturday morning dawns clear and bright. Perfect weather for what Malcolm calls precision excavation. But first, I have another trick up my sleeve. Something to buy us time while we plan the main event. I've ordered custom retractable posts, the kind they use at high-end parking facilities, complete with remote control operation. They arrive just as Lila heads out on a luxury shipping run, right on cue. She slows down as she passes, watching the delivery guys unload 3 stainless steel posts and a control unit. I give her a friendly wave and call out, "Just some new yard fixtures, Lila. Very decorative." Her expression could freeze lava, but she drives off without a word. Malcolm appears at my fence line like he's been waiting for a signal. "Those are some fancy fence posts, Cal," he says, examining the equipment with the practiced eye of someone who's built half the mechanical contraptions in the neighborhood. Remote controlled, too. That's what I call modern convenience. We spend the morning installing them at strategic points across my driveway entrance. They're sleek, professional looking, and completely legal as decorative yard fixtures according to city code. When they're down, they're nearly invisible. When they're up, they create an impenetrable barrier that would stop a tank. Testing them is the most satisfying moment I've had in months. Press the button, and 3 steel posts rise from the ground like robotic sentinels. Press it again, and they disappear back into their housings with barely a whisper. It's like having a drawbridge, I tell Malcolm, who's grinning like a kid with a new toy. Drawbridge is right. Question is, what happens when the dragon tries to cross? We don't have to wait long to find out. That evening, Lila's hosting what she calls a spring gala fundraiser for the Neighborhood Enhancement Fund, which sounds about as legitimate as a $3 bill. Cars start arriving around 6, and I'm watching from my window like a general observing enemy troop movements. The first few guests park politely on the street, but then comes the moment I've been waiting for. Lila's Escalade approaching my driveway at its usual entitled pace. I hit the remote. 3 posts rise from the pavement like steel flowers blooming in fast forward. Lila's SUV stops so abruptly I'm surprised she doesn't get whiplash. Through her windshield, I can see her face cycling through confusion, realization, and finally, nuclear-level rage. She sits there for a full 30 seconds, engine running, probably trying to process that someone just said no to her in a language she can't argue with. Then comes the storm. Lila's out of her car and marching toward my front door like she's leading a cavalry charge. She's wearing a cocktail dress that probably costs more than my monthly mortgage payment and heels that turn her footsteps into machine gun fire on my walkway. "Cal Whitman!" she bellows before she even reaches my porch. "What is this?" She gestures wildly at the posts. "This is ridiculous. I have guests coming. Important people." I open my door with the calm of someone who's holding all the cards. "Hey, Lila, those are my new yard fixtures. Pretty neat, right? Completely decorative and totally legal according to city ordinance." Her face is turning colors I didn't know human skin could achieve. "Decorative? They're blocking access," she shrieks. "To your property, yes," I reply smoothly, "but this is my property. The street's right there if your guests need parking." The confrontation escalates quickly. Lila's voice reaches frequencies that probably violate noise ordinances as she demands I lower the posts immediately. "I'm the HOA president. I'm this neighborhood's aesthetic guardian. This is vandalism." I maintain my calm, which only seems to infuriate her more. "The posts stay up during events, Lila, private property rights and all that. Her response is to threaten another HOA meeting, another vote, another attempt to weaponize bureaucracy against basic property rights. But I've learned something important about Leela. She doesn't handle setbacks well. The next morning, I find a new violation notice on my door, this one more creative than the last. Apparently, my driveway blockers are now considered impediments to neighborhood harmony and must be removed within 30 days. The language is more elaborate, the threats more specific, but the message is the same: bow down or face consequences. That's when I discover something beautiful in the HOA documents. Decorative water features are not only allowed but explicitly encouraged under Section 19A of the Community Beautification Guidelines. Water features, like ponds or fountains, or, hypothetically speaking, moats. I highlight this section in bright yellow, just like I did with the parking rules. Two can play the bureaucracy game, but only one of us has actually read the rule book cover to cover. Malcolm's contribution to the post situation is characteristically brilliant. Without telling me, he installs a motion sensor on the posts that triggers a horn whenever someone approaches them. Not just any horn, an air horn that sounds like a freight train having an argument with a foghorn. The first time Lila's guests set it off, the blast is so loud it sets off 3 car alarms. I watch from my window as guests jump back like they've been electrocuted, phones out, recording the chaos. Within hours, the videos are circulating through the neighborhood. Lila's elegant gala becomes known as the Horn Incident, and suddenly I'm not the only one who finds her behavior questionable. The tide is starting to turn, and I can feel it. That evening, Lila storms over one more time, her dress wrinkled, her hair disheveled, her composure completely shattered. "This ends now, Cal. I'm going to end your little stunts once and for all." But her threats sound hollow now, desperate. As she stalks back to her house, I can see Malcolm in his yard, chuckling and shaking his head. "Her tires are toast," he calls over to me, and I know exactly what he means. The real battle is just beginning. The next morning, I'm finalizing plans with Malcolm over coffee, spreading blueprints across my kitchen table like military strategists planning the decisive battle. "You sure about this moat idea, Cal?" Malcolm asks, though his grin suggests he's already committed to the plan. Because once we dig this thing, there's no going back. This is going to be the talk of the neighborhood for years. I look across the street at Lila's house, imagining her reaction when she sees what's coming next. "Malcolm," I say, "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. It's time to build a castle." Sunday morning. Crisp air. Malcolm arrives at 7 sharp, armed with trenching tools and a smirk. "Ready to make some magic happen, Cal?" he asks, unloading a trenching shovel that's seen more action than a war correspondent. "Today's the day we turn my driveway from a parking lot into a fortress." The moat is legal, beautiful, and impossible to cross without permission. A koi-filled decorative trench with a hidden motorized bridge. HOA approved, but built with a purpose. Digging starts at 8 a.m., and by noon we've carved a respectable trench across my driveway entrance. Malcolm works with the efficiency of someone who's dug more holes than a professional gravedigger, while I handle the technical aspects, measuring depth, ensuring proper drainage, installing the waterproof liner. A neighbor from down the street brings us lemonade and asks if we're installing a fountain. "Something like that," I tell her, wiping sweat from my forehead. By evening, we've got the basic structure complete. The moat stretches across my driveway entrance like a miniature castle defense, lined with blue waterproof material and bordered by decorative stones. The bridge mechanism, a masterpiece of mechanical engineering courtesy of Malcolm's 40 years of fixing things, spans the gap perfectly. When it's down, cars can pass over easily. When it's up, it's a steel wall that would stop anything short of a military vehicle. By sunrise, the moat shimmered like glass. The koi darted beneath a bridge that rose like a promise. Silent. Steel. Unbreakable. The effect is genuinely spectacular. The water shimmers in the morning light, the fish dart between the decorative plants, and the bridge gleams like something from a fairy tale. Leela's first encounter with the moat happens exactly as I hoped it would. It's Tuesday evening, and she's arriving for another one of her social gatherings, this time a potluck dinner for what she calls the Maple Street Investment Club, which sounds about as financially sound as a Ponzi scheme run by kindergartners. Her red Escalade approaches my driveway at its usual presumptuous pace, and I'm watching from my living room window like a wildlife photographer waiting for the perfect shot. The moment she sees the moat, Lila's SUV stops so suddenly the car behind her nearly rear-ends her. I can see her through the windshield, hands gripping the steering wheel, mouth hanging open like she's trying to catch flies. For a full minute, she just sits there, engine idling, probably trying to process what she's seeing. Then comes the explosion. Lila's out of her car and standing at the edge of my moat like she's discovered the lost city of Atlantis in her neighborhood. She's wearing a sequined dress that catches the LED lighting like a disco ball, and her gestures are so dramatic she could be conducting an orchestra of outrage. "What is this?" she shrieks, her voice carrying across the entire street. "This is vandalism. This is dangerous. This is..." She pauses, searching for the right word. "This is insane." I step out of my house with the calm dignity of a property owner protecting his investment. The bridge is up, creating an impenetrable barrier between us, water rippling gently in the evening breeze. It's a decorative water feature, Lila, completely legal according to HOA Section 19A, which explicitly encourages beautification through aquatic landscaping. My voice is steady, reasonable, while hers climbs toward frequencies that could shatter crystal. The scene becomes pure theater. Lila standing on one side of the moat in her sequined dress, gesticulating wildly, while I stand on the other side with my hand calmly resting on the bridge control panel. The koi fish dart between us like they're enjoying the show. Other neighbors are emerging from their houses, phones out, recording what will undoubtedly become neighborhood legend. "My driveway, my moat," I say simply, and those 4 words seem to push Lila over the edge. What happens next is spectacular in its absurdity. Lila grabs one of my old no parking signs, apparently she's been saving it as evidence of my harassment, and hurls it into the moat with a splash that sends koi fish scattering and water splashing onto her designer shoes. "There!" she screams. "How's that for your precious water feature?" The sign bobs on the surface like a defeated surrender flag, while water drips from Lila's hair and her sequined dress glitters with droplets. The gathered neighbors are no longer hiding their amusement. Someone from down the street actually starts clapping, which sets off a ripple of applause that must make Lila feel like she's performing in the world's most humiliating theater production. She's standing there dripping, breathing hard, while I maintain my position by the bridge controls with the serene confidence of someone who's just won a chess match in 4 moves. Lila pulls out her phone and starts live streaming the moat, narrating breathlessly about dangerous water hazards and neighborhood safety concerns. Her audience can see her standing there soaking wet and bedraggled, while behind her my beautifully lit water feature sparkles like something from a resort brochure. The contrast is not flattering to her argument. The next morning brings vindication in the form of a city inspector. Apparently Lila called in complaints about unsafe construction and property modifications without permits. The inspector, a patient man named Rodriguez, who's clearly seen his share of neighborhood disputes, examines everything with professional thoroughness. The moat meets all safety requirements. The bridge mechanism is properly installed. The electrical work is up to code. "Nice water feature," he tells me, signing off on his inspection report. "Very creative landscaping choice." But the best part comes later that afternoon, when June shows me something that makes my day complete. Lila's meltdown becomes a viral sensation. HOA watchdog and suburban meme pages crown her queen entitlement. My phone doesn't stop buzzing for 2 days. I'm grinning as I read the comments, my hands slightly shaky from adrenaline and vindication. Malcolm's assessment from his porch is characteristically direct. "Looks like the dragon tried to cross the moat and ended up all wet." I couldn't have said it better myself. Wednesday night, I'm awakened by a sound that sends ice through my veins. The grinding, metallic shriek of machinery in distress. It's coming from my driveway, and it's the unmistakable sound of my bridge motor being tortured by someone who clearly doesn't understand the concept of private property. I throw on clothes and grab a flashlight, my heart pounding like I'm heading into battle. The scene I discover is both infuriating and pathetic. Lila Sloan, dressed in dark clothing like some suburban ninja, is crouched beside my bridge mechanism with a wrench, trying to jam the motor housing. She's so focused on her sabotage mission that she doesn't notice my approach until my flashlight beam catches her face. For a moment, we stare at each other like deer in headlights, if deer wore expensive athleisure and carried tools stolen from their husband's garage. "Evening, Lila," I say, my voice carrying the calm authority of someone catching a burglar red-handed. "Working late tonight?" She freezes for a split second, then tries to brazen it out with the kind of audacity that would impress a con artist. "This thing is a safety hazard, Cal. I'm doing the neighborhood a favor." She's still holding the wrench, motor oil on her manicured hands, looking about as convincing as a bank robber claiming they were just making a deposit. By morning, the bridge is dead. Lila used glue, badly. It's now an expensive sculpture. My car is trapped on the wrong side of the moat, and I'm facing a commute that involves either pole vaulting or swimming with the koi fish. The irony isn't lost on me. In trying to destroy my defense system, Lila has essentially laid siege to my own house. But here's where being a tech instructor pays off. I've had security cameras watching my property since the day I installed the Moat. While Lila was playing Midnight Mechanic, she was starring in her own surveillance footage. The video is crystal clear. Her face, her actions, her tools, everything needed to prove that the HOA president just committed vandalism against a legitimate water feature. I watched the footage 3 times, each viewing more satisfying than the last. That evening brings the monthly town hall meeting, where Lila has apparently decided to make her final stand against what she's calling the Moat menace. She's dressed like she's addressing the United Nations, complete with a folder full of what she claims are safety concerns and property value assessments. The meeting room is packed. Apparently word has spread about our neighborhood water war, and people are here for the entertainment. Lila takes the microphone like she's accepting an Oscar, her voice carrying the righteous indignation of someone who's never been told no in her entire privileged existence. Fellow residents, she begins, we're here tonight to address a dangerous situation that threatens our community's safety and property values. One of our neighbors has installed what he calls a decorative water feature, but what I call a potential lawsuit waiting to happen. She's building momentum now, gesturing dramatically as she outlines her case against my Moat. This isn't about property rights, this is about responsibility to our community. What happens when a child falls in? What about emergency vehicle access? What about the precedent this sets for neighborhood standards? Her voice rises with each question, and I can see several heads nodding in the audience. For a moment, I wonder if her theatrical performance might actually work. Then it's my turn to speak. I walk to the front of the room with my laptop and a confidence born from having truth on my side. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'd like to address Mrs. Sloan's concerns, but first, I think you should see this. I connect my laptop to the projection system and hit play. The security footage fills the screen in glorious high definition. Lila, clear as day, vandalizing my property at midnight with criminal intent. The gasps from the audience are audible. Lila froze. For once, words failed her. The room watched in silence as her argument collapsed in 30 seconds of HD footage. When the video ends, the room is dead silent except for the sound of Lila's heels clicking as she shifts nervously at the podium. As you can see, I continue, my voice steady and factual, Mrs. Sloan's concerns about safety and community standards seem somewhat inconsistent with her own behavior. The Moat meets all city codes, has proper safety features, and adds genuine value to our neighborhood's aesthetic appeal. The only danger it poses is to people who think they can park wherever they want without consequences. The moderator barely finishes asking before the room answers with silence. Only 3 hesitant hands rise. One of them immediately lowers. The message is clear. The room erupts in a mix of laughter and applause that drowns out Lila's attempts to maintain control of the narrative. Her face is a mask of defeat and humiliation as she gathers her papers and stalks toward the exit. But the evening's entertainment isn't over. As Lila reaches the door, an elderly neighbor from down the street stands up and addresses the room. Excuse me, but didn't Mrs. Sloan just confess to committing a crime on camera? Shouldn't someone call the police? The suggestion hangs in the air like smoke from a fire that's about to spread. Lila's exit becomes a retreat, then a full-scale flight as murmurs of agreement ripple through the crowd. The aftermath is swift and social media driven. Someone has already posted clips of the surveillance footage online. Within hours, it's spreading through the same networks that made Lila's sequin meltdown famous. The narrative has shifted completely. She's no longer the concerned HOA president protecting neighborhood standards. She's the entitled vandal who got caught on camera destroying someone else's property. By Friday, I'm scrolling through comment threads that restore my faith in cosmic justice. The footage has reached that magical internet sweet spot where outrage meets entertainment, and Lila has become the poster child for everything people despise about power-drunk HOA officials. June finds me in the faculty lounge, grinning at my phone like a lottery winner. Enjoying your 15 minutes of fame, she asks. More like enjoying Lila's 15 minutes of infamy, I reply. But June, I'm starting to think we can do better than just defending territory. What if we went on the offensive? Her smile suggests she's been waiting for exactly this conversation. That weekend, June appears at my door with her laptop and an expression that suggests serious business. How, she says. Remember how you mentioned going on the offensive? Well, I've been doing some digging into HOA finances, and I think you're going to find this very interesting. We spread her research across my kitchen table, and what I see makes my blood boil. Lila hasn't just been abusing her authority, she's been stealing from the community fund to pay for her own home improvements. The evidence is overwhelming, and I know exactly what we need to do next. And the weekend brings an unexpected ally in my war against Lila's tyranny. June McCarthy might teach 3D printing by day, but she's got the investigative instincts of a detective and the digital skills of a hacker. Cal, she says, appearing at my door Sunday morning with a laptop bag and a grin that suggests trouble. Want to see what happens when you actually read HOA financial documents? We spread out on my kitchen table like we're planning a military operation. June's laptop displays spreadsheets, bank statements, and expense reports that paint a very interesting picture of how Lila's been managing community funds. Look at this, June says, pointing to a line item labeled Community Enhancement. Deck installation? $15,000 for deck installation. Guess whose house got a brand new deck last month? I don't need to guess. I can see Lila's elaborate outdoor entertainment space from my backyard. The financial irregularities are extensive and damning. Community pool maintenance funds diverted to Lila's personal landscaping. Neighborhood watch equipment money spent on what appears to be a home security system for one specific address, hers. Street cleaning assessments that somehow paid for pressure washing a single driveway, again hers. June, I say, staring at the evidence, this isn't just abuse of power, this is theft. Her nod is grim. $27,000 worth of theft by my calculations. Monday evening's emergency town hall meeting is standing room only. Word has spread through the neighborhood faster than gossip at a church social, and people are arriving with printouts, questions, and expressions that suggest Lila's days of unquestioned authority are numbered. She walks in wearing what I can only describe as a power suit designed to intimidate, all sharp angles and expensive fabric, but her confidence looks forced, brittle. When the moderator calls for reports from community officials, June and I are ready. We prepared a presentation that would make prosecutors weep with joy. Clear documentation, timeline analysis, and financial evidence that removes any doubt about what's been happening to community funds. Ladies and gentlemen, I begin. We're here tonight to discuss transparency in community management and how funds designated for neighborhood improvement have been used. The projector screen fills with bank statements and receipts, each one more damaging than the last. The room grows quieter as the magnitude of Lila's financial creativity becomes clear. Murmurs turn to whispers, whispers turn to angry conversations, and angry conversations turn to demands for immediate action. Lila sits at the front table, her face cycling through denial, defiance, and dawning realization that her empire is crumbling. Me's are taken out of context, Lila finally explodes, jumping to her feet with the desperation of someone watching their house burn down. I've worked tirelessly for this community. Every decision I've made has been for the greater good. She grabs the microphone like it's a lifeline, her voice rising to frequencies that make the sound system squeal in protest. This driveway situation has gotten completely out of hand. This man, she points at me with the accusatory finger of someone who's never accepted responsibility for anything, has turned our peaceful neighborhood into a circus. The response from the audience is immediate and brutal. Someone from down the street shouts, "What about our pool money?" Another voice calls out, "Where's our street cleaning equipment?" The questions multiply like rabbits, each one hitting Lila with fresh evidence of her financial misconduct. She's standing at the podium now, looking like a general whose army has just switched sides. An elderly neighbor stands up with the formal dignity of someone who's lived through enough community drama to know how these things end. I move that we vote immediately on removing Mrs. Sloan as HOA president, effective immediately, and that we contact appropriate authorities regarding the financial irregularities we've seen tonight. The motion passes before the last sentence is finished. Lila doesn't wait to hear the count. She already knows. Her face goes through the 5 stages of grief and fast forward: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and a resignation so complete it's almost sad. Almost. She gathers her papers with shaking hands, while neighbors who used to treat her like royalty now avoid eye contact. But the evening's surprises aren't finished. As the meeting breaks up, Malcolm appears at my elbow with information that changes everything. "Cal," he says quietly, "you know my cousin Darla works in real estate, right? She mentioned something interesting about the Sloan house." I lean in, sensing that whatever Malcolm's about to tell me is going to be significant. They're behind on their mortgage. Way behind. The house goes up for auction next month. The implications hit me like lightning. Lila's house, the McMansion of entitlement from which she's ruled our neighborhood like a suburban dictator, is about to be sold. And I, thanks to my careful savings from teaching and my frugal lifestyle, have exactly the kind of nest egg that could make a very interesting real estate purchase. The wheels in my brain start turning faster than my Moat's bridge motor ever did. That night, I sit on my back porch, the glow of the Moat reflecting off my sketch pad. I flip back to the first page, the crude doodle I made weeks ago out of frustration, now a blueprint for poetic justice. I should feel victorious, but there's a sliver of something else. Not pity, but a strange recognition. Lila's empire wasn't just built on arrogance. It was built on fear, of irrelevance, of fading influence. And now she's losing it all. Maybe I'm not just winning? Maybe I'm watching someone come undone? Still, sympathy doesn't cancel consequences. The Moat stands. The battle was just... I pull out my phone and text Malcolm, tell Darla I might be interested in viewing a property soon. The exposé goes viral. Memes, receipts, hashtags, Suburbia's internet court is in session again. Someone has created a hashtag that's gaining traction, and suddenly our little neighborhood drama has become a symbol of grassroots accountability. June texts me a link to a blog post that calls our investigation a masterclass in community organizing. I'm exhausted but exhilarated, finally ready to make my move. The war is nearly over, but I've got one final battle plan that will end this conflict permanently. Malcolm's cousin Darla calls me Tuesday morning with details that make my heart race. The auction is scheduled for Thursday. The minimum bid is lower than I expected, and most importantly, very few people know about it yet. If you're serious about this, Cal, Darla tells me, I can arrange a viewing this afternoon, but you'll need to move fast. I'm already reaching for my car keys. Thursday morning arrives, with the crisp energy of victory approaching. I'm standing in my kitchen, coffee in hand, watching the moving truck pull up to Lila's house across the street. She's really doing it, abandoning her self-styled kingdom after her spectacular fall from power. Even in defeat, Lila can't resist one last petty move. But the bridge is up, the Moat gleams, and she's out of moves. I walk outside with the calm confidence of someone who's been playing chess while his opponent was playing checkers. The moving truck sits on the street side of my water feature, unable to cross, unable to use my property as their personal parking lot. The driver is standing beside his cab, scratching his head and probably wondering why nobody mentioned the medieval fortifications when he took this job. Neighbors are emerging from their houses like it's the finale of a long-running television series. Phones are out, recording what everyone senses will be the last chapter of our neighborhood drama. The anticipation is electric. Everyone knows something significant is about to happen. Lila emerges from her house wearing what can only be described as a defeat outfit. Designer athleisure that costs more than most people's monthly salary, but looks somehow diminished on her. Her usual theatrical confidence has been replaced by the hollow bravado of someone who knows they've lost but can't quite accept it. She approaches the Moat like she's walking to her own execution, and in many ways, she is. "This is ridiculous, Cal," she calls across the water, her voice carrying less venom than usual but twice the desperation. "My movers need access. You can't keep that bridge up forever." I lean against my bridge control panel with the relaxed posture of someone who holds all the cards. "Actually, Lila, I can keep it up as long as I want. It's my bridge, on my property, protecting my driveway." The koi fish swim lazily between us, completely unbothered by the human drama playing out above their heads. But I've been waiting for this moment, and I have one final surprise that will end our conflict permanently. "Lila," I call out, my voice carrying across the water with the weight of absolute victory. "There's something you should know. I bought your house." The words hang in the air like smoke from a cannon blast. "I bought it at auction yesterday. Cash offer, 10% above asking price. Congratulations, you're about to become my tenant." From the crowd, a voice pipes up. "Wait, Cal, is that you?" A woman steps forward, mid-30s, smart blazer, clipboard in hand. "I'm Emily Travers, the leasing agent assigned to this house. We went to college together." "You don't remember me?" My jaw drops. Emily was in my junior mechanical design class, always outshined by louder students, but sharp as a scalpel. "Emily, you're the new property manager?" She smiles. "Guess so. Full circle, huh? I hated that parking lot back in college. Now I get to help you control who parks here." The effect on Lila is immediate and spectacular. Her face cycles through confusion, disbelief, horror, and finally complete cognitive breakdown. She stands there opening and closing her mouth like a fish, an apt comparison given our current setting, trying to process information that doesn't compute with her understanding of how the world works. Malcolm appears at my fence line with a manila envelope and the satisfied grin of someone who's kept a secret just long enough. "Deed transfer came through this morning, Cal. Congratulations on your new rental property. He tosses the envelope across to me with the casual flair of someone delivering a knockout punch. The gathered neighbors erupt into applause that starts slow and builds to a crescendo worthy of a symphony orchestra. Someone from down the street actually whoops with joy. The moving truck driver, sensing the shift in power dynamics, walks over to me instead of Lila. "Sir, where would you like us to position the truck for loading?" he asks, completely ignoring the former homeowner who's still standing in shock on the other side of my moat. Lila's final meltdown is brief but comprehensive. "This is illegal, this is harassment, this is impossible." But impossibility has clearly become possibility, and she's living in a new reality where actions have consequences and entitled behavior leads to spectacular downfall. I lower the bridge with ceremonial slowness, the steel platform descending like a drawbridge in reverse. The moving truck rumbles across my driveway entrance, finally able to access Lila's house through legitimate means. As it passes, I give the driver a friendly wave and call out, "Take your time, the new owner's not in any hurry." The rest of the morning unfolds like the final scene of a satisfying movie. Lila's belongings are loaded into the truck with efficient professionalism while she stands on the sidewalk, displaced and diminished. The moving crew treats me as the primary contact, asking questions about access, timing, and logistics, while completely ignoring the woman who, until yesterday, thought she owned the street. As the truck pulls away, taking Lila and her reign of entitled tyranny with it, the neighborhood feels lighter somehow. The oppressive weight of arbitrary authority has lifted, replaced by the simple justice of consequences finally catching up with actions. A neighbor approaches with a plate of homemade cookies and a smile that suggests she's been waiting years for this moment. "Thank you, Cal," she says simply. Someone needed to stand up to her. The afternoon brings visitors, neighbors I've barely spoken to during my months on Maple Street. They come with stories of Lila's past offenses and appreciation for what they're calling the Moat solution. Someone suggests we name the water feature Sloan Line in honor of the boundary it represents. The name sticks immediately. By evening, I'm sitting on my back porch, looking across the street at what is now my rental property. The house that once symbolized Lila's dominance over our neighborhood now represents something entirely different. The principle that actions have consequences, that bullies eventually face justice, and that sometimes the best defense really is a good moat. Malcolm joins me with 2 beers and the satisfied exhaustion of someone who's helped build something meaningful. "So what's next, Cal?" he asks, settling into the chair beside me. "You going to rent the place out?" I take a sip of beer and watch the sunset reflect off my moat surface. "Maybe," I say. "Or maybe I'll just enjoy knowing that entitled behavior has its limits, even in suburbia." June texts me, "Check the neighborhood groups, you're famous." I open my phone to find dozens of posts about what people are calling the greatest HOA takedown in suburban history. The story has taken on a life of its own. The tech teacher who built a moat to stop a parking bully and ended up owning her house. It's the kind of justice story that spreads like wildfire because it represents something people desperately want to believe, that sometimes the good guys really do win. As darkness falls and the LED lights illuminate my moat, I realize this was never really about parking. It was about respect, boundaries, and the simple principle that money and position don't give you the right to treat other people like obstacles to your convenience. Lila forgot that lesson, and my moat became the teacher she never expected. Now, as I raise the bridge one final time and watch my koi fish swim their peaceful circles, I know that sometimes the most effective way to solve a problem isn't to compromise or accommodate. Sometimes you just need to dig a deeper line in the sand. Or in this case, fill it with water and add some fish. The moat remains, a decorative water feature that serves as both neighborhood beautification and a permanent reminder that private property rights exist for a reason.